400,000 years ago, deep inside a cave in the Sierra de Atapuerca, Spain. Archaeologists made a chilling discovery: a human skull, now known as cranium 17. It had 2 deep fractures, one above the eye socket, the other across the forehead. These weren't caused by an accident or an animal attack. The shape of the wounds was identical, same size, same direction, and most telling of all, no signs of healing. This person died shortly after being struck, and more importantly, they were intentionally killed. This is the earliest known evidence of human-on-human murder. Not a death for survival, not to escape the wild, but a conflict between 2 people, and that raises a much darker question. If one person could kill another, when did entire groups begin killing entire groups? War didn't begin with armies. It began with intent, a choice to harm, repeated, then organized. So where was that first turning point? What fueled it? Resources, territory, women? Or was it something deeper, something wired into our biology? To answer that, we travel forward in time to Nataruk, the first organized massacre in human history, around 10,000 years ago. In what is now Nataruk, Kenya, archaeologists uncovered a haunting scene: 27 human skeletons scattered near the shores of an ancient lake. Among them were pregnant women and children. Some had their hands bound behind their backs. Others showed broken ribs, shattered skulls, and obsidian arrowheads driven through their necks. Obsidian, a sharp volcanic glass not native to the region. These people didn't die in an accident. They weren't killed by animals. They were victims of a planned, organized attack. This wasn't a desperate fight for survival. Nataruk was fertile land, abundant in water and resources. There were no signs of famine, drought, or water conflict. So, why the massacre? The answer may lie in one chilling possibility: an early act of war not for survival, but for territory, wealth, or women. Some obsidian weapons found at the site came from distant regions, suggesting that the attackers had traveled with purpose. And the types of wounds, lethal, efficient, designed to kill humans, indicated that this was no hunting party gone wrong. Though debate continues in the archaeological community, Nataruk stands as the strongest evidence yet that warfare among hunter-gatherers existed, long before cities, kings, or organized armies. When comparing 2 ancient human species, Homo sapiens and Neanderthals, weaponry may have been one of the most critical differences. Neanderthals relied on short, heavy spears, built for close-range combat. That meant they had to get dangerously close to prey or enemies, a risky move, often fatal. In contrast, Homo sapiens developed bows and arrows, throwing spears, and even atlatl spear throwers that extended the arm and multiplied force. These innovations allowed them to strike from a safe distance. Not just technological progress, but a life-or-death advantage. Evidence from Grotta Mandrin Cave in France suggests that bows and arrows were in use as early as 54,000 years ago, far earlier than we once believed. Tiny symmetrical arrowheads show meticulous craftsmanship and a deep understanding of aerodynamics. But making a bow and arrow wasn't easy. It required the right type of wood, an instinct for flexibility and balance, and the knowledge to make adhesives from tree resin or beeswax to fix the arrowheads in place. This wasn't just survival, it was innovation passed down through generations. The difference in weapons and hunting strategies may have played a decisive role. Homo sapiens survived. Neanderthals did not. Not necessarily because we were smarter, but because we kept our distance, worked together, and relentlessly improved the technology that kept us alive. Prehistoric warfare didn't come in just one form. Archaeological discoveries suggest that the motives behind conflict and the methods of violence were far more diverse than we once imagined. Take the Talheim death pit in Germany, dating back to around 5,500 BCE. Inside, archaeologists uncovered a mass grave of 34 individuals, mostly men and children. Strikingly, there were no local women among the dead. The only females present, as isotope and DNA analysis revealed, were non-local. This led to a chilling theory. that the massacre was about seizing women, not resources, a form of violence driven by social or reproductive motives rather than simple material survival. Half a world away, at Paco Pampa in Peru, researchers found skeletons with healed injuries, repeated trauma, wounds that spanned across the whole community. These weren't the signs of a one-time attack. They hinted at something more ritualistic, perhaps a cyclical form of violence, used to assert dominance, enforce punishment, or maintain social order. Taken together, these findings suggest that violence in prehistory wasn't always random or senseless. It could be ritualized, targeted, even political, a tool used within early human societies to shape power, belief, or survival strategy. Contrary to the common belief that prehistoric humans lived in scattered, unorganized groups, archaeology tells a different story. These ancient people built large-scale fortifications with clear strategic thinking. In Siberia, the Amna fortress, dating back around 8,000 years, stands as proof. It is the oldest known fortress in the world, built by hunter-gatherers. And it wasn't just a shelter, it was a deliberately designed stronghold, showing careful planning, long-term vision, and coordinated effort by the community. Meanwhile, in Poland, archaeologists uncovered 15 ancient settlements, each surrounded by earthworks, timber, and stone walls, spanning up to 20 hectares the size of a medieval fortress. These weren't just built to keep out wild animals. They were defensive systems against other human groups. These structures reveal a surprising truth. Prehistoric people didn't just know how to attack, they knew how to defend, to protect territory, and to think ahead about the safety of their people. The ability to organize construction, maintain large defensive systems, and coordinate protection efforts proves they were not savage, nor simple-minded, but highly cooperative, strategically intelligent, and deeply communal. Prehistoric humans understood cooperation, territorial defense, and the power of strategic foresight long before cities or kingdoms ever existed. When we think of prehistoric warfare, we often imagine muscular warriors charging into epic battles, just like the movies show us. But archaeology paints a very different picture. Most prehistoric battles were brief, chaotic, and utterly disorganized. There were no uniforms, no commanders, and no battlefields. Just quick, brutal strikes and a swift retreat. The weapons used were the most advanced of their time, but the results were often massacres. Women, children, the elderly, no one was spared. There were no moral boundaries, no early Geneva Conventions, only raw instinct violence justified by territory, reproduction, or belief. These findings dismantle the romanticized myth of ancient warfare. There was no glory in prehistoric war, only destruction. And that forces us to ask a deeper question: did humans evolve to wage war? Or is war simply what happens? When cooperation breaks down, the history of war isn't just a tale of blood and fire. It's a mirror reflecting the dual nature of humanity, capable of brutality, yet also of great compassion. From Cranium 17 to Nataruk, from obsidian arrowheads to ancient hunter-gatherer fortresses, we see clearly prehistoric humans did not live by instinct alone. They planned, they cooperated, they protected, and, at times, they destroyed. War wasn't the only thing they did, but it became an unavoidable part of organizing society. Still, it was through cooperation, creativity, and adaptability that Homo sapiens survived. We are not the descendants of the most aggressive. We are the descendants of those who knew when to fight, and more importantly, when to stop. Looking back at prehistory isn't about romanticizing darkness. It's about understanding where our light comes from. If there's one lesson to take from tens of thousands of years ago, it's this: humanity's greatest triumph has never been brute strength, but intelligence and the courage to choose kindness.